actually got arrested once. I wasn't a perfect boyfriend by any stretch of the analogy. There's enough out there that my reputation could have been, so when I get online, I'm like, okay, I'm just waiting for some of these 100,000 followers or whatever it is to say, oh, I remember him when he was, dating 4 girls, or I remember this guy when he was, pompous or pompuser, more arrogant,
starting fights with kids or whatever, and with the spotlights or whatever you guys are doing in the story, one of the stories in the books, right? Like,
yeah. And then they're like, oh, now he's preaching.
Well, you matured, right? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, but we all have a past, right?
Yes.
But I've been preaching for 30 years, and I have slipped in those 30 years. And so I think that the answer to the question is that you have to stay consistent in what you are. So if you're a bad person, you'll stay consistent at it, and then that will become what you are. I mean, the North Star of our identity is our habits. Mm-hmm. So some 30 years ago, my habits became more so biblical education than even business education. So I really wanted to fill myself or brainwash myself with items that I feel that would grow me personally, spiritually, and then profitably. So yeah, I got an email from a guy the other day. I had to sue him. He owes me $40,000 and he won't pay me. Man, I just want him to work it out. Give me $10 a week. Give me, at some point you just, how much do you take from people? And he started paying me. They didn't stop paying me. And I said, listen, you just got to give me a call. Let me know. And he didn't. He called me some this or that. And so I sent the attorneys after him again. And he called me names. And I hate it. I don't like it. But, you're never going to make everybody happy.
True.
But you need to be consistent at what you are. And hopefully, we talk about Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, right? And so the fact is that we need to continue to do good, be continuing to be good in what God's Spirit is in us, right? And that will manifest itself into being good at lifting weights or being good at business or be good at marathoning, right? These habits that create your identity. But I think the answer to your question is I am challenged myself to be consistent in being good. And then they're going to say what they're going to say.
No, I love it. And once again, your consistency to be good, regardless of your past or any stumbles you might have, right? You're still true to that mission of being consistently good, if I can spit it out. So, Todd, we touched on your 3 books, and I want to get a little bit there. So I'm always amazed by individuals that can put words to paper, right? Because I struggle getting things out of my head. And here in front of me, I look at not only 3 books, but 3 workbooks that accompany these books. I know you have another book in process. You talk about a movie that you want to do. I've seen the trailer, which is very, very motivating. Talk to me about what point in your life you said, you know what, I need to do this, right? I need to get this on paper. What inspired you to do this? And tell me about the struggles you encountered while doing this.
Yeah, so I've held my father at such a high esteem, rightfully or wrongfully, for a long time, and I raised my own children. I was at a point with Pacer from 2017, I think.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm going to write a book and so that my grandkids can understand why I've been successful and what the story is of my wife and I, our marriage, and the business side of us. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a radio show with a friend by the name of Dave Kaufman. And every Saturday we went live and we did this show, and it was a couple of years, and we had a lot of fun. And he was in this space and I wasn't in this space. And so I started to write the book about the successful sides of my business for my children. And as I started writing it, I'm like, no, this should be for everybody, right? My kids can read it, but I think that I want to really get out there and I want to share the gospel and in my business. And so the first book was titled Wired Differently, and it's really a foundational book because it takes you through kind of my life and gets into my personal space. And I ended up not really sharing the gospel till the very, very end in that book. And it really wasn't that strong. And I remember feeling when I was writing that book, God tapping me in the shoulder. He's like, hey, can you put me in the book now? I'm like, hang on. And I tell another story, and I'd hear this. Hey, can you put me in the book now? I'm coming to you, God. Like, can you chill? He's like, okay. Hey, it's time to put me in the book now. And I'm like, and I remember when I first wrote it, it was so rich in content of Christianity that I had an editor that was helping with this, and I said these words that, I mean, they haunt me to this day. I said, Mario, we got to take God out of this. Really? It's even hard for you to hear, right? I mean, it was dripping with, I mean, it was too much. But for me to say that was, I mean, I said it and didn't know I was saying it, but I heard myself say it. I'm like, did I just say that? And so even that first book, which is a very good book, very rich in stories, I think very entertaining. I had to write it 3 times. It was a wreck. That was one of the hardest things I ever did. But I really feel like it was the beginning of a great brand, Wired Differently. And the name Wired Differently came out from writing that book. You know, no doubt. I didn't go into that book with wired differently. It just came out of that. God gave me that. So we ended up telling a quick little story, and we shared the goodness of God at the end. And hopefully the readers make it to the end. So then the second book I wrote was titled Drift Again.
And
so
much
in the
thicker.
first book,
there's a lot more pages here, Todd.
What's that?
I said there's a lot more pages with Drift Again. There's more pages, more words.
Yeah, a little more words. Well, because I became an author, I was a storyteller in the first book, I think. And then the second book, I became more of an author. Okay. And I really had a deeper message to share with people. And I wanted them to know that it's okay, man. We're going to sin, and you're going to sin, right? You're going to lose focus, and then you're going to lose focus again. You're going to drift, and then you're going to drift again. You're going to sin, and then you're going to sin again. I mean, and so the book Drift Again is about this idea that whatever your weakness is, it's going to be gnawing at you the rest of your life. It's going to come at you again and again and again. And the same things that I stumbled in early in life before my Christian beliefs and dedication to Christ, I was caught up in the second part of my life. Not only 15, 20 years later, I was stumbling again. About lost my marriage again. About lost my children again. And, I've been married 40 years. I got lots of messes to clean up in 40 years, but a lot more good stuff. But so Drift Again is this idea of repentance and this idea of a God and a loving leader like God that says, come on back. I'll take you again. I'll take you again. You can drift again. You can lose focus again. You can sin again, but come on back. Every time I'll take you. And so that book, God only tapped me on the shoulder 2 or 3 times, and it got a little bit more braver with the message. And the third book I wrote was Your Will Be Done. And in that book, was really the first book I wanted to write with all that drippy godly stuff in it. Okay. But now I'm an author. Now I know how to triangulate things. I know how to set things up, and I can say it so it's not so guilt-ridden, right? And I came out swinging in this third book. I mean, I literally call myself a modern-day Apollos. And Apollos is the guy that was out sharing the gospel about Jesus, but he got it wrong, right? We get things wrong.
Sure we do.
Right? And so we drift again. We get things wrong, and and we drift. So that's really the trilogy of those 3 books. The fourth book you got there is Wired Differently for Profits, and that's how to really go into your company. That's a blocking and tackling book on what I will be coaching you through if I'm fortunate enough ever to win somebody in the regards of a full-on annual week-to-week coaching where we go into your business and we grow it. And that's we interview those people for that coaching process, and
selective.
We're very successful in that regards.
And it's
so
selective
there you go.
as well, as far as in that coaching. Obviously, you're being selective in that process and getting that commitment out of them in order to work with them. That would be, I'm sure working with the right people makes a big difference. I know we get in our own way a lot of times, and even though we might bring a coach in, we still can't get out of our own way and to make the changes. And I know that's a lot of frustration. I know of others I know that do a different type of coaching and other different industries, and I hear that, sometimes it can be very frustrating. So you mentioned weaknesses and drifting again. What is Todd Saylor's kryptonite?
I think my kryptonite, I think I'm tempted in a lot of things.
Explain.
I think I'm tempted to get out of bounds in money making. I'm tempted to get out of bounds. I won't lie to you. I get on Facebook and all of a sudden, some girl's running down the track and field thing, and she's got hardly anything at all and on. And I see it, right? That's a form of temptation. I'm tempted to have a third glass of wine with my wife, which it's okay with your wife, I guess. But I mean, I'm easily tempted. Like I know things are bad for me, but I like those things that are bad for me. I like it. I like it a lot, to be honest with you. And so it's always been a struggle for me to not to have more of whatever I like. And so,
especially as a man in your position, right? I'm sure it's a lot easier to maybe afford those temptations.
Yeah, I mean, I think God allows us to be tempted. Matthew 6:9, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And so God, we're saying in that prayer to God in Matthew 6:9 to help us not be led into temptation by Satan or the world or whatever that is. And I think pornography is a big one for most men. I think at some point you're going to be faced with that. I think gambling is a big temptation. DraftKings and all that kind of stuff is coming on all the time, everywhere you go. Even the images on the Facebook or the Insta and all that kind of stuff. I mean, what do we really need all that, right? Anything that draws your focus away from your spiritual growth is really temptation. And it's going to prevent you from growing yourself personally. It's going to prevent it's going to prevent you from sharing goodness in Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good. We become weary because we're tired. We become weary because we're not only tired, but we become weary because we're tempted.
Hi, I'm Marc Thomas, founder and CEO of Current Tech Solutions and Cyber Guardians. If you or someone you know could benefit from our cutting-edge IT and cybersecurity services, we'd love to help. Our expertise in securing your business with AI precision ensures that you're protected and empowered to thrive. Reach out to us today to learn how we can secure and elevate your business.